Welcome, guys, to another episode of Travel Royally Podcast. Today, Jeff and I are going to be talking with Mr. Clyde. We recently took a Scotland trip to St. Andrews and to Lossiemouth a few months ago, and we saw Clyde and his group of guys that are from Cincinnati on the plane. We saw them at the rental. We saw them at the Dunvegan. At the end of the trip, I thought that they were following us. But Clyde is amazing. He's played golf in all 50 states. He's played golf in 6 of the 7 continents. He's going to have some really great stories. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, welcome everyone to another episode of the Travel Royally Podcast. We're thrilled tonight to have a very special guest, Dr. Clyde Henderson. Clyde lives in Cincinnati. He's a retired orthopedic surgeon. He graduated from Northwestern with a degree in engineering. He then entered the Army, and then he attended the Harvard of the Midwest, the University of Cincinnati, where he has a degree in medicine. He recently retired, well, a couple of years ago, he retired after 32 years as an orthopedic surgeon. And interestingly, he's played golf in all 50 states. We'll talk more about that in a moment. He's also played golf on 6 of 7 continents. The one that he hasn't played on, you'll be surprised to hear which one that is. We met Clyde this past summer in Scotland, and Scotland's a small country. We ran into him multiple times on our trips. He's a very likable guy, and we're thrilled to have him as our guest today. Clyde, welcome to the Travel Royally Podcast.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. It's been my pleasure to have met both of you and have talked with you on a couple of occasions in Scotland and on multiple occasions since we've returned. So thanks a lot.
Well, we really are glad that you're here. And, what's interesting about Clyde, he's very easy to get to know and to like. And we found that out very quickly. We were in a car rental agency and we met him. And then we ran into him in St. Andrews, in all places, a pub. And the other thing, I don't know if you remember, Clyde, but I was walking in front of your hotel and I thought I saw you at the top of the building, right at the restaurant at the top of the Rusacks Hotel. And I'm like, Clyde, and then, well, that wasn't you. So
okay,
so
well, we did eat there one night. We ate at the top of the hotel one evening. So, and one of my compadres and I were standing outside after we had eaten.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got, and I haven't even told Hayden this yet, but we just got an exclusive deal with a tour guide in St. Andrews. And one of the things we like to do, Clyde, is when we send our guests there, we like for them to arrive on Sunday, go straight to St. Andrews, walk the course because it's closed, as you know. And then at the Martyrs Monument, right behind the RNA, we've got a tour guide that will meet our guests there, take a 90-minute tour up to the castle and the cathedral, down through the university, down Market Street and South Street and all that. And then the tour culminates at the top of the Rusacks with a cocktail. It's
fantastic.
called a wee walk and a cocktail.
That sounds like a very good introduction to St. Andrews. Yeah.
Well, Clyde, you appear to be a true Renaissance man beyond medicine. Tell us about, well, it could include medicine, but tell us about your passions right now.
All right, sure. Well, let me back up a little bit and make a little correction as far as my biography is concerned. I went to Northwestern University as an undergrad. Then I was at University of Cincinnati, the Harvard of the Midwest, as you called it, for medical school. And I did my orthopedic surgery residency at University of Cincinnati hospitals. And then I went to the Army.
Okay.
Okay. So the reason I went to the Army was that it's just a continuation of a theme with me. I was blessed to do a lot of things, and family, we had no money. So I joined the Army in medical school, and they paid my way through my last 3 years of medical school. And I owed 3 years of active duty service after I finished my residency. And so I went into the Army After I finished residency, I was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We called it Fort Lost in the Woods, Misery. And if you've ever been there, you'll know why. But I was chief of orthopedic surgery out there for 2 of the years I was there, and so we had an opportunity to take care of a lot of injured soldiers. Unfortunately, they were injured, but we were glad to be there to assist them in getting better. And so it was really a good experience from a professional standpoint. And then I came back to Cincinnati to start my practice in medicine and practice there for 33 years before I retired about 4 years ago. And I'm actually semi-retired as well. I still do a little bit, as you were alluding to earlier. Since this COVID epidemic, I've been writing articles. I've actually written 86 articles now about COVID. I thought this would be a 3-month thing with COVID, right. And here we are, 2.5 years later. Yeah. But basically trying to be a service to the community, and so that's been my continuation of medicine, along with also working for a firm that does evaluations for the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. So I don't see patients anymore, but I'm still busy.
Yeah. And a lot of what you do relative to COVID is around the African American community, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what piqued my interest, actually, was because I saw the disparate effect it was having on the African American community. And I thought that I needed that I could benefit and the community could benefit from having a voice, talk with them about what's going on with COVID-19 and what we could do to basically save ourselves. And because that's, being your own advocate is very, very important. And I thought I could be a voice for that. And that's what I started to write why I started to write the articles. And they're published at in the Cincinnati Herald, which is a Cincinnati's African-American newspaper, and also at the Cincinnati Medical Association, the website. So that's how they get basically disseminated to the public.
Well, and I heard you on an African-American radio station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Yeah, the Buzz. BLZ. Yeah, right, the Buzz, yeah. And so I've been on that station. Also, I've had a couple of articles in the Cincinnati Enquirer as well. But there's an organization called the Center for Closing the Health Gap, which is very active with trying to eliminate healthcare disparities. And I have a collaboration with them where we have town hall meetings as well as radio and TV appearances as well.
Now, I think some of this, I'm going to take a wild guess here, stems from the fact that early in your life, you found a mentor, a doctor that kind of inspired you to become a doctor, and actually became, at some level, a colleague after you became a doctor, correct?
That is very correct. When I was 7 years old, my father and I had pneumonia. And we went to this doctor who was in the community. His name was Paul Huff, and he treated us for pneumonia. And he took an interest in me at that point from the standpoint of wanting to know what I was going to do with myself as things went on. My father did construction work. He had a little construction business, very, very hard, never made a whole lot of money. But he took my brother and I out, and I remember is actually saying to me one early August afternoon, we were putting down some blacktop in Cincinnati. And if you've ever put in blacktop, that asphalt is really, really hot. And he said, this is what you can do unless you stay in school. So I remember it like it was yesterday. And so with that encouragement, along with my family doctor who was encouraging me, I was leaning toward medicine. But then as I got to the point where I had to do some exploration from this in order to figure out how I would get to be a physician, it was apparent to me that it would take a very, very long time. And like I said before, we didn't have any money. I felt like I needed to get to work. I was good in math and science, and was blessed to get into a Northwestern as a engineer. I was a material science engineer. Then I decided not to do medicine because I didn't want to stay in school that long. But I worked as a junior engineer for the summers between my first 3 years at Northwestern. and figured out that at age 40, I didn't want to be an engineer without a advanced degree. So I was going to need an MBA or a PhD, in which case, if I needed to just do what I really wanted to do with my life, and that was medicine. So I migrated back to medicine, applied for medical school, but stayed in engineering so that I would at least be able to get a job if I didn't get into med school. But I got into medical school, multiple places, and decided to come back to Cincinnati. And then my mentor, Dr. Huff, had been following me all along, and so he was happy when I made the change. And then after I finished my residency and my stint in the Army, he was one of the first people that sent me a whole bunch of patients. So that was the back end of that. So
your story reminds me. About 2 years ago, I was on a conference call with about 2,000 other people with Magic Johnson. And he's a fascinating man from the perspective that he only made $19 million playing basketball.
Right. Only
worth 600 million.
Right. Yeah.
Right. He owns the Dodgers.
Yes.
For people that don't realize that. But the thing that was interesting to me was his father had a trash hauling business. So they would drive through the neighborhood picking up people's trash. One winter, there was a bag of trash frozen in the ice, and Magic tried to lift it and it wouldn't come out. So he left it and got back on the truck, and his father made it, said, "You need to get out. This is our job, is to take that trash."
Right.
And he said to him, "How you do those little things is how you do everything."
Yep.
And it changed his life to be one of, whatever I do, I'm going to give it my whether I'm picking up someone's trash or whether I'm, making a pass to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right.
It's going to be the best I can do. So some of those innocuous comments our parents make can shape the rest of our lives, right?
No doubt. And as a parent, I try to pass those on to my children still, and my grandchildren.
Yeah, excellent. Now, obviously, we met because of golf, and it seems like a lot of people, me included, and Hayden as well, were introduced to golf by our parents. Did your father play golf, or did you find golf in another way?
No, my father did not play golf, and golf was not big in my community when I was growing up. In fact, it was no one played golf, and not in my immediate family, and certainly not my father. The reason how I got involved with it was when I completed high school. We used to play basketball very late at night. I mean, like until 3 o'clock in the morning, literally. There was a place up on Gilbert Avenue, Thompson Cadillac. You may know of it. Anyway, I hope I'm not advertising for them. But anyway, there's a lit basketball court there, and we would play till wee hours of the morning. And then so one Friday, I think it was a Friday night, we had played till very late in the morning. And I decided, I was with my best friend, and I was going to go away to college in 6 weeks or so. And I wanted to spend as much time as I could with him. And so we decided that we weren't going to go home that night. But we went over to White Castles and had some breakfast. Right. What else? And then we said, okay, why don't we go play some golf? So we went to Avon Fields.
Yep.
We know.
Avon Fields, Avon Fields is the oldest municipal course west of the Alleghenies. Excuse me. It's in our community, and we had basketball shoes, rented clubs, and started to play golf. And that I fell in love with it. Just the difficulty of the game early on, and trying to work through those mechanics was what brought it to me. But as I played it more and more, I realized the beauty of the game, and teaches you a lot of life lessons.
Yeah, I have to tell you something. It seems like, well, I shouldn't say it seems like, you're a remarkable person from this perspective. That a lot of people follow their parents or examples in their community. And what I mean by that is, like, if you look at the number of doctors who have children that become doctors,
Right.
or lawyers whose children become lawyers, or like I have a degree in marketing. I have 3 children. They have degrees in marketing. Not because I said get a degree in marketing, but it's what they followed. They saw me carrying a briefcase and wearing a suit, and in your case, you took a different path, right? You kind of broke new ground for your family, not just educationally, but and then to play golf when in your community there weren't a lot of golfers in your, or I don't know how many African American golfers there were back in the 70s
Right.
in Cincinnati, but I can't imagine there were nearly as many as there are today.
Right. Well, there still aren't many. If you look at the recreational golfers, the statistics tell us is about 3% of them are African American. But getting back what you're saying, I agree with that. And that's one of the reasons why I do things in the community. What drove me to medicine was because somebody helped me, and I was on the on the shoulders of somebody else, and I want to pass that experience on to kids. Just from the standpoint of we say I work with an organization called the Black Men in Medicine Cincinnati, and our motto is you can be what you can see. You can be what you can see. So being a physician with young kids, seeing an African-American physician, just as I did, they will hopefully take up the mantle and be there to take care of me and other folks as we get older and older. And from the standpoint of golf, I love the game, the beauty of the game from the standpoint of it teaching you, honesty and integrity and perseverance. Things that you do are your responsibility. It's not somebody else's fault. You did it, it's your fault. With a golf shot, when you hit that bad golf shot, you hit it in the water because you tried to hit a 4-iron over water when you could have laid up. You made a bad decision. And in life, it's the same way. You make some decisions, you're going to have to be accountable for them. But again, so I would like to have young folks be able to see not only the beauty of travel in golf, but also the life lessons that it teaches you. And that's what I like to pass on.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of the people that we still play golf with haven't learned those lessons. They're still learning. But hopefully eventually they'll learn.
So, Clyde, when the wind blows real hard and your ball doesn't stay in bounds, who do you blame? Hayden, who would you blame?
I wasn't talking about myself, okay?
It's not the wind, right? It's not the wind's fault.
No.
You're playing those links golf, you got to keep that ball down low,
I learned once I got to Dunbarney, I learned a little bit.
So Clyde, I want to tell you about kind of an interesting story. If you trace the legacy of certain things in life, how you became a doctor, and then you look at the legacy you left for your children and the path that they've taken, there's a connection or a thread, or maybe even it's thicker than a thread that runs through that. And there's a connection to you, maybe more so to your friends, but my father was very poor when he grew up, and at age 12 he needed to go out and make money for the family. Prior to that, at age 10, he delivered papers for money, and whatever he made, half of it went to the family, and he got to keep that. But when he was 12, he went to work at Makatiwa Country Club as a caddy.
Okay.
And no one in his family played golf. So on Mondays was caddy day, and the caddies could play. And during the summers, my father learned how to play golf at Makatiwa. And so if it wasn't for him being poor and him needing a job and stumbling onto how in the world he found Makatiwa Country Club, I have no idea. But golf wouldn't have been passed down to me in all likelihood.
Right.
And the interesting connection there is that was designed by Donald Ross. Donald Ross is from Dornoch, Scotland. You and I have both played Royal Dornoch. And when you see the greens there, you understand why the greens are the way they are at Makatiwa. You understand why some of the run-ups are the way they are at Makatiwa. And one of the first courses my father and I played in Scotland when I took him there for the first time for his 60th birthday, we played Dornoch, and that's when this hit me. That if it wasn't for, I mean, think about that. Donald Ross, Scotland, Dornoch, Makatiwa, my dad, me, my children,
Right.
this golf business, this meeting, none of it would have happened had my father not, well, had Donald Ross not come to Cincinnati and built that golf course. It would have been a vacant lot that my father would have walked by and gotten a job bagging groceries somewhere or
Right.
whatever. But it's an interesting connection or legacy we leave behind us.
No question. And speaking of that legacy, there's some historical, I would say, a dispute as to who actually built Avon Hill, Avon Fields. I've seen in several places where it's alleged that Donald Ross was the actual original architect of Avon Fields.
Wow.
Right down the street from, down the street from Makatiwa.
Yeah.
They're only 2 miles apart, if that far. Yeah.
Yeah, when we used to take some of the football players, that was our go-to. It was like 5 minutes down the road. Everybody's welcome. Everybody, it doesn't matter how good you are. We had, guys who'd never played come out there, and we loved it. I love Evan.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then you're a member of a club in Cincinnati, correct? So isn't it?
Yes. I belong to the Heritage Club. It's a PB Dye design. It's up in Mason.
Okay.
And it's a pretty hard golf course. In fact, everybody I love to bring people who are 2 handicaps out there.
The one course that you'll beat them at?
Well, not necessarily beat them, but the course is going to beat them up. I tell you that. I've never invited someone there and they shot their handicap first time around.
I'm sure.
But it is a very. I love the golf course. It's some good folks there. It's a great design. The food is spectacular, and it makes me unafraid to play anywhere in the world. So
you should invite Hayden and make sure it's a windy day. Let's see how he fares getting around the. Now, what part of town do you live in? Do you live up in Mason?
No, actually, I live in Amberley.
Okay.
In Amberley Village, and it's just some good. Again, some friends of mine were members up there, and I had belonged to another club close to me, but we were having some difficulty, and they weren't going to make the changes that needed to be made in order to get us out of financial difficulty. So I decided to go up to a Heritage. I like the course. It takes me about 22 minutes to get there.
It's nothing.
When there's not any traffic.
Oh, yeah. Time it up.
Well, I know that I grew up in Cincinnati. We the course I grew up playing on was Winton Woods.
Mm-hmm.
And then while I was in probably middle school or thereabouts, Glenview was built. And but Cincinnati's, for people that don't have the means to join a private club, there are lots of county park courses. The Hamilton County Park System they used to have Winton Woods, Sharon Woods. There might be others, right?
Well, Clyde, I think I told you when I was playing there, I worked at California Golf Course, and that's one of those where really easy to play, not too expensive, great for public golf.
Yep, that's exactly right. And we find that we have a lot of city courses, California being one of them.
Glenview is part of that, right?
Yeah, Glenview, Avon Fields, Reeves down at the Lunken Airport, Newman out on the western side of town. Then there's the Vineyards.
Yeah, that's right.
Then the county courses would be Winton Woods, Sharon Woods, and there's one over on the west side. It escapes me right now.
But 2 weeks ago,
Glenview.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I actually had a company outing at Vineyards, so I liked it a lot.
Did you?
We got stormed on, but it passed.
California was one we played a lot when I was first starting to play. We'd go out there between Avon Fields, California, and Reeves. Reeves is where I had my first eagle. California now has a lot of trees. They have a lot of trees. It's grown up considerably. Yeah. But there's another course, it's a public course. It's not actually in town, but the one I think is actually the best. The course we play on Mondays because our club is closed is Stone Lick Hills.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I played
very
it once.
nice course. Yeah, I love that golf course.
Another good one is Elks Run if you can get
Yes.
out there.
I was just there about 2 weeks ago.
I was too.
Really, I was there on a Sunday afternoon for an outing. Well, we're in the
Okay.
same outing.
Saturday. No, I was there
Okay.
Saturday.
Yeah,
2
but
weeks ago.
I like to get around to play, and so
If we would have ran into each other, I would have thought you were following. I seriously, that would have been crazy.
Now think about that. Think about that, Clyde.
right,
Last time you saw him was in the Dunvegan, and then you
Right.
see it.
exactly.
golf course is
At Elks Run, yeah, that's
Let's run through it. We were on the same plane,
Yes,
right?
right,
We saw each other at the car rental,
right,
and then we saw each other at the Dunvegan.
correct.
I don't know if y'all remember seeing us at the Dunvegan because y'all were
We had a
close
good time.
round.
It looks like you all were having a better time in the front room, though. So
Yeah, there you go.
We got a nice seat. And was that it? I think that was it. We might have seen y'all one more time.
No, that was it.
Oh, and then y'all were playing at Dumbarton the next day.
right, yeah,
We just didn't catch you then, but we played earlier. So
yeah.
But what I want to come back to that. Well, you ran into you got to meet the owner. You got to meet
Yes.
Clive Clark.
Clyde Clark, yes, we did. Interesting story. While we were playing, our caddy fell ill, and I was playing with two other doctors. One's a cardiologist and one's an emergency room doc. And here I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Anyway, so this guy falls ill, and it looked to me like I knew he was diabetic. It looked to me like his blood sugar was low. So we finally figured out that his blood sugar was low. The other doctors were doing other things, that looking for strokes and that sort of thing. I said, dude, your blood sugar's low. So I said, I'm a physician first. I fix broken bones, but I can tell you when the blood sugar is low. But anyway, we got some Coca-Cola and some orange juice, and had to really encourage him to take it, and encourage him to the point. It's like trying to feed a baby initially. And I put the bottle of Coca-Cola up to his lips and forced him to drink it. And so the legend of our trip was that Clyde drowned caddy in Coca-Cola, So
at the same time, saving him.
Right, exactly. So it was good. It was and so everybody was pretty amazed at what had gone on. And the owner we saw the architect and owner of the club afterwards. He came over and thanked us for taking care of the caddy. So even in Scotland, you still physicians still care about people, and you do what you can to help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. He's fortunate you guys were there, because without care, that could turn into a dire situation.
Oh, absolutely. It could be really bad. And if you know a lot about Scotland, where those golf courses are located, and the one lane roads to get down to them, and trying to get an ambulance there. And when your blood sugar is really, really low, you can have some serious, you can get some brain damage early on, and he was already lethargic and disoriented and combative.
Yeah.
Right.
I understand he used some salty language.
Yes, he did, which I won't use here, but it was very salty. And, but nevertheless, I knew it wasn't him. It was the low blood sugar coming through, and we had to do something about it.
So did you enjoy the course, Dumbarton?
I really like the course. I love that course, So it was, it kind of looks like the one in your background there, So
yeah,
with the grass and the links and so forth, I think it was very well done. And the clubhouse was very nice. It was, I would certainly go back there and play again when I get there, when I go back.
We loved it.
Yeah. So that was my third trip to Scotland with these guys. We went in 2001, and we said we're gonna come back every 10 years. So we went back in 2011, and then this time was 2022, but that was because of COVID. We couldn't go last year. So it was a great experience.
It's time to step it up to every other year.
Yeah.
I mean,
although my wife won't, she's not gonna allow that, man.
Well, I'm gonna tell you something, Clyde, that's really interesting. Pre-COVID, what we were seeing was 99% males going on golf trips.
Yeah.
It's over 50% men and women now.
Really?
And most, well, I won't say most, but a high proportion are men and women going, and the women aren't playing. Like they're just they're couples trips now. We've
Right.
got we've got multiple trips next year booked with husbands and wives where the wives don't play, or
Mm.
So what he's saying is get the guys, get the women, we'll get a couples trip going.
Well, they actually they went with us in 2011.
Did they like it?
They liked it, but we went back by ourselves in 2021, 22. You take from that.
We don't
what
have
you
to say
will.
anything. We don't have to say anything else.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna fall on the sword here. We used to go. I used to sit in the Dunvegan as far back as 25 years ago with my friends, and you would see guys there with their wives,
Yeah.
and we would facetiously look at him and say to each other, "Look at that guy, living the dream." Like, had to bring his wife, right?
Right.
So now, my favorite person to go to Scotland with, and I'm sorry to say this, Hayden, is my girlfriend Tina.
Ah.
I mean, it's such a wonderful place. I don't have to play golf every day. She and I spent the entire summer there last year, living in St. Andrews. It was magnificent.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, when
anyway.
you're there for 2 months, you get enough golf in where you
Right,
don't need to play every day. So that's kind of
Yeah.
Now, Clive, I need to. We're going to rub some salt in the wound for Hayden.
Okay.
You and I have each had hole-in-one. As a matter of fact, between the two of us, we've got 4.
Ah.
I won't say that you've got 3 and I've got 1, but you've got 3 and I've got 1. And Hayden, you don't seem to have one yet.
Oh no.
So, Clive, what's your secret? How do you have 3 hole-in-ones? And by the way, one of them I saw you had a University of Cincinnati shirt on, which makes all
I'll
of
use
us
some
count.
good luck.
Right. Exactly. Well, my first one was it was a 185-yard shot down in Myrtle Beach at the Legends, and it was with a 4-iron. So that was, I mean, you just hit the ball and we saw it go over the hill, and we couldn't actually see the bottom of the cup. And I sprinted. I was on a golf trip with 16 guys. And I sprinted up there, and the ball was in the hole, so that was good. The second one was up at Glen Abbey in Canada, in Toronto.
Yeah.
Where you remember Tiger hit that 6-iron out of the bunker on the 18th hole one Sunday. No one thought he could make that shot. Why that's where I had not of that hole, but one of the holes there I had my second hole-in-one. That was a 9-iron. And then the last one was during COVID, when I was playing at Stone Lake Hills, and that was a pitching wedge, 128 yards. So it was just one of those things, you're trying to keep getting it close, and they go in on occasion, So I was wondering, my first 2 were 10 years apart, and the third one came, it was like 15. I said, that's too big of a gap, So,
Wow.
so they're always fun, So
The trustworthiness kind of is easier to believe while you're in COVID. The 15-year-old, no. Jeff, what was yours?
Mine was at Canongate here in south of Atlanta, hole number 8. They have 3-9, or they've got 2 18s there. So this was on Rockmore, and I had like 140 yards to a pin over water, and I hit I took a little off a 9-iron. It was downhill, and it hit beyond the cup and came back into the hole.
Oh.
And you're like, did that? I mean, but Clyde, you know that feeling when the ball disappears and you're like, it's disbelief, right?
Yes.
Like,
right.
I knew I hit it well, but I didn't think it was in the hole.
Yeah, I feel you. Well, the second one I saw spin sideways into the hole.
Oh, nice.
And the other one, the last one, it was actually really, really foggy. So it didn't go in the water. The pin was up front, and we knew it was going right at the flag. So we didn't know until we got down there. Well, we saw the ball mark on the green short of the hole, and no ball. So we knew it was in the hole at that point. So, but it was so both all of them were exciting experiences. So
you
Now,
go.
Oh, go ahead, Hayden.
Yeah, I was just going to go back a little bit to you said you go to Scotland every 10 years, but don't you make other trips every 5 years, right?
what? Actually, we make
House?
No, we make a bunch of trips. I went to Ireland as well. And that was with our women, with our wives.
Okay.
So that was nine golfers, 10 golfers, and 10 wives.
Wow.
So, but that was a fascinating trip.
A once in a lifetime trip.
Right, exactly, no doubt, no doubt. We also had a trip to England when the Bengals played the Washington team over there.
Oh,
We went to
nice.
England, and the women went with us then, and we only played one round of golf. That was at Hadley Woods, just north of London. And we actually went to a Mary J. Blige concert that trip as well. That was a great trip. You know, Bengals game, tie game. The game was tie. It was a tie. So we didn't lose. And then the Mary J. Blige concert beforehand, and a round of golf, and coming back from the golf course in our +4s, and we generally wear +4s when we travel. And just coming back on the tube in +4s was and people looking at you all strange. You know, that was kind of weird. But we take trips during the year where we take our wives as well. We go to my birthday. We'll go to a place where there are casinos and golf courses. So we've done New Orleans. We've been up to Foxwoods up in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And been down to Dancing Rabbit in Mississippi.
Yeah.
French Lick, Belterra, you know, those sort of places we go to. Then we go to Palm Springs every year as well. And so the wives have started to accompany us on that trip. So.
Well, I think, when dogs get old, they lose their fight, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they know what fights to pick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. Well, Clyde, listen to this. We're planning a trip next year for a married couple, and not a special occasion, but they said, "Hey, Jeff, we want to go to Ireland and to Scotland." And they live in Chicago. They're big Cubs fans, and the Cubs are playing the Cardinals for like three games, 2 or 3 games, one weekend next July.
Okay.
Right? So we're putting together a trip for them where they're going to work with a travel agent on the flights and the time that they're in London.
Right.
And then everything in Scotland and Ireland will provide, but it's a very similar experience, right? Going over to see, I think they're playing at the Emirates, which is where a big soccer team over there plays. But,
okay.
I don't think they're playing at Wembley. Anyway,
that should be a great experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we did when we went this time. We arranged the trip to the Open. A couple of days to the Open. We kind of arranged separate from the agency that was actually doing the travel for us. And but it was a good trip.
Now you didn't go. You weren't there on Friday. We were there on Friday.
Right.
But we would have seen you again in all likelihood. But we were in the stands behind 18 when Tiger walked across the bridge crying, and the people in the stands were crying. One of the most amazing things I've seen in sports.
Exactly. Yeah, I wish we just hadn't gotten there early enough. And I think he was teeing off early, and we arrived, and we decided we're going to play golf that day. And we went to the hoping he would make the cut, but we had booked Saturday and Sunday, so but he didn't make the cut, so we didn't get to see him. But I'm sure that was a great experience of what you speak, so.
Yeah, standing ovation for every single person around the 1st and 18th.
Yeah.
For about 5 minutes.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah, special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's meant a lot to the sport for sure. And so I guess one of the things that we're reflecting back on what we were talking about before is that I just wish that his presence had brought more African American golfers into the sport. We just don't have enough that we see on TV, and you like I said, you can be what you can see, but it's been I'm sure he did what he could, for everybody as far as golf is concerned. So we continue to try and encourage people to play, because it's a marvelous game. I love the game, and there's a lot of connections that people make, and it can help you in a variety of careers, from the standpoint of networking. And so it makes a big difference. And if you love outdoors and love travel, this is the thing to do. So,
well, he did inspire. I mean, he inspired millions of people to play.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure millions of African Americans play because of him. Unfortunately, you're right. There aren't a lot of African American men that play that are on the PGA Tour now.
Right.
Harold Varner made the unfortunate choice to leave and go to Live Golf.
Yeah.
But he's an amazing player. I saw him win on TV earlier this year in the Middle East. I think he was in Dubai,
right,
where he made a literally 100-foot putt to beat Bubba Watson. And Bubba and him are very close. And Bubba came out like he was more excited for him than if he'd won himself, I think.
Right. Yeah. Well, Bubba's won a lot, so
now they're playing together.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a whole nother story. The money's there. I'm sure they're gonna take it, but if I can do an editorial, I don't think you can have it both ways. That's the only thing I have to say about that.
From what Varner has said in the public, it looks like he's doing it for the right reasons. Yeah. So, saying that he can do what he wanted to do with charities now and have the flexibility, but
that's good.
That's good. I like to see that.
Yeah. No doubt.
Cam Smith had a similar one where they're starting to bring golf to Australia, so he'll be able to spend more time there and spread the game there.
Okay.
It's also good, but there's always that, thought in the back of the head. We know what it's about, but at least
I think it's as a business person, it's a very poor business model. I've never seen any business be successful where the whole basis is greed, right? It's not about growing the game. It's not about taking golf to Asia. It's not about, it's just taking a product that the PGA has built, stealing the best players are the ones that they can get, and then paying them money that there's no way to, in a normal business, you can't sustain that. You can't keep, they don't have endorsement dollars to fund this. They don't have television contracts or media contracts. It's all coming from the Saudi government, and it's a very poor business model. I'm not, on some level, I don't blame people for taking the money, but to hide behind some of the things that they've said, I don't know. Yeah, I think Hayden and we haven't talked about it, but I think we're on different sides of this issue.
Yeah.
I saw the celebration for DJ and his team, and it seemed so contrived. They were acting like they'd won the Super Bowl and they'd won a stupid little golf event outside of Boston. And the people in Boston are upset, saying, don't call that TPC Boston. That's 30 miles outside of Boston.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of people were saying that DJ was way happier than any of his major wins.
Right, really.
So
well, we'll see.
Now that leads to something interesting. You mentioned some places that you've played, Clive.
Yes.
And you've played in all 50 states. How in the world is that possible?
Well, when I was working, I would, of course, go to medical conferences for continuing medical education. And I like to play golf. So I would, when there was a conference at a place where there was a nice golf course, I would go to that conference, so.
Easy.
Yeah, right. So that's how it started. And then so I looked up in about 2000 or so. And that's when two things happened. First of all, I read an article where some guys were going to attend a baseball game in every stadium in the United States. And also there were, the United States Mint was starting to issue the state quarters. Remember those state quarters?
I remember that. Yeah, I had a collection for my kids.
Exactly. And so, and I had played golf in 29 states. I said, okay, well, I'm gonna play in every state. And so that's how it started. And I got a poster which has a slot in it for each one of the state quarters. And so if I had played the state and the quarter was out, I would put it on tails. And if I had played the state in the state quarter wasn't out, I'll put it on heads, but fill up the slot. And so I then started to plan my medical conferences to fulfill those other 21 states that I hadn't played. So I did that in took about 10 years to do the other 21 states. And I would do things like, and my wife was teaching. She was teaching then. My wife taught second grade, and so she was a big history buff. And so we would add things for her to do on those trips as well. So like we would visit sites on the Underground Railroad while we were doing these trips. For instance, when I hadn't played in Oregon or Nebraska or Wyoming, and my business partner's son was getting married in I'm at Washington. I'm sorry, I hadn't played Washington. He was getting married in Seattle, and my wife wasn't going to go to the wedding because she had to teach. So I flew to Denver one Wednesday night, drove up to Wyoming, it's only 100 miles, to Cheyenne, stayed overnight, played in Cheyenne in the morning, then I played in Nebraska in the afternoon, and I drove back to Denver, stayed in the hotel over at Denver overnight, and flew to Seattle for the rehearsal dinner the next night and a baseball game. So that's the sort of thing that I did in order to do these things. And the last three that were on the list were Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And so my wife went with me. So we flew to Burlington, Vermont, and we took in a place called Rockabye's, which was a site on the Underground Railroad. We visited the museum, checked into Sugarloaf, and I played golf there, then drove over to New Hampshire and played golf at a place called Breakfast Hill. And again, there was one of the first African-American publisher in the United States was in New Hampshire. And so we visited the shop there, the museum there, and then we drove up to Maine, and I played at Samoset, which is the last course that I played. It was the 50th. And so that's the sort of things that I did in order to get them done.
That's really cool.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. I can tell you how he got to North and South Dakota.
How?
He went to a medical conference. I mean, you're really scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to find a medical conference, but it was how to drain an abscess. I mean, something they teach first-year medical students. He's flying to North and South Dakota to learn how to do that, so he can get around to golfing.
Well, actually, that trip was it was actually very intentional. I went there just to play golf. There was no medical conference for that. And the two of my friends that went to Scotland with me, they were on the trip as well. We flew into Fargo and played at a place called Dakota Winds, which is just above the North Dakota border. It's in South Dakota, and then drove down to Sioux Falls and played at Prairie View, I think the name of the course was Prairie Hills, in Sioux Falls. And that was the North Dakota, South Dakota trip. So
you must have really good friends that are willing to go to North and South Dakota to play golf.
They're very good friends. And when we got to North Dakota, it was really windy. I mean, I have pictures of our hats being blown off, and the flag. It was worse than the winds that I've ever seen, even over in Scotland or Ireland. But the flag was at a 45-degree angle, and it was chilly. And this was first part of May.
Okay, hey, scratch those states off your list. You don't want to play and win.
Maybe. I want to know what courses you played in Alabama and Georgia.
In Georgia, I played at a bunch of courses around Augusta.
Do not say Augusta.
Reynolds.
Reynolds Plantation.
Right. Reynolds. And then there was a county course that I played with one of my friends down there as well.
Hard labor? No. There's a course called hard labor. I'm not kidding. There's a course called hard labor.
It wasn't hard labor. And then you asked about Alabama.
Yeah.
In Mobile, Magnolia Grove.
Okay.
Part of the Robert Trent Jones Trail.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So that was in fact, that was the one course in Alabama. So
you've only played one course in Alabama.
Yeah, right.
Wow.
That's all I needed.
Right, that's all I needed. I played one course in a lot of states, so
yeah, sure.
So
I want to hear so you've played in all 50 states.
Yes.
And then we're gonna get to the continents that you've played in. You
Right.
played in 6 out of 7.
Right.
Jeff was hinting to the one that you haven't played in. Let's start there.
All right. The one I haven't.
Okay, yeah. Well, I want to go back on
Okay.
one. I want to ask this question, but I love your question, Hayden. But is there a course or a state that surprised you? Like you travel a long way to these places, and you're like, "Holy cow! I had no idea the golf was going to be this good, or the
Right.
state was this cool."
That would be Oregon. Bandon Dunes.
Oh yeah.
That's
Okay.
that's my favorite. Bandon Dunes, the Bandon Dunes course there, of the I guess there's 6. I haven't played Sheep Ranch, but when I first went to Bandon Dunes and I played Bandon Dunes, that's my favorite course in the United States. I love that course, and I was surprised. And it's like, I guess, what they talk about is that it's like playing golf in Ireland. The difference is it's easier to get to Ireland. So,
Yeah. I hadn't heard that, but I certainly understand.
but you understand it. You've been there. You know it's hard. So, but that did surprise me, and the fact that when we first went there, there was Bandon Dunes, Pacific Dunes, and Bandon Trails. So they only had 3 courses, and now they have 6. So I've made 3 trips out there. I've been there 3 times.
You know what I love about golf and what you did? I have this sense that like it's hard to have a bad time playing golf. I've never met I don't know if I've ever met an a-hole playing golf, where you get set up with someone else.
Yeah.
And golf courses seem to be welcoming to everyone. Was that your experience? And it was like,
well, I have played with a-holes before.
Okay. Yeah. They're called your golf buddies.
You play with them every week.
I love those guys, all of them, so I mean, it's happened in the United States as well as in actually when I played in Africa. The gentleman wouldn't play with me, in fact, and so I ended up playing with just my caddy.
Because you were black?
Yep, that's
Was he white?
exactly correct. Yeah. That's what they told the caddy master, and so I said, "Fine, no problem." I went off and played by myself. This was in Zimbabwe.
Wow. What was the reason behind the main reason? What was the reason?
Well, that was the main reason. I mean, it was stated, in fact, so there's still racism in this world and in this country, so we still run into that on occasion. But for the most part, I do agree with you. I would say that my experiences on golf courses are opportunities to get to meet a lot of people who are from different walks of life, and they make it a pleasure to be out there, for the most part. But you can have some bad experiences, but that was the one that comes to me most immediately, if you will. We've had some other experiences which we don't have time for, but
well, I'm just it's just hard. It's hard for me to imagine. Hard for me to imagine that. And I have friends that have shared experiences that they've had that are appalling.
Yeah.
Not around golf, but around life in general, right?
Yes.
And
well, the thing is, and that's part of the reason why I think that the history of golf and the history of how particularly African Americans have been treated vis-a-vis golf lingers in the community, and it keeps a lot of people from wanting to play. And so that's part of why you don't have the passion for it everywhere, because people have not been treated properly. If you look at the people who, I mean, you can name the folks who have been very, very successful. Looking back at Lee Elder and Charlie Sifford and Teddy Rhodes and so forth. Those guys, they endured just unspeakable things. They couldn't stay in the hotels. And they were. I mean, there was Caucasian only clause until 1961 for the PGA Tour. Even up until the 1990s for Shoal Creek, when they wouldn't let blacks play there. So that's in the 1990s. So those sort of things put a bad taste in people's mouths, and it's whether it's not an excuse, but it's a reason why people haven't gravitated to it. And if you don't see people playing, you don't think you can play. It's just like being a doctor or being an engineer, being a lawyer and so forth. You need to see people in those walks of life to know that you can do it as well. So.
Well, what's the name of the course up in northern Ohio? I think it's near Cleveland, where an African American guy built a course, and his daughter, I think she became a professional.
Right. That's Clearview.
Yeah.
Clearview. It's in East Canton, and it was built by William Powell. He came home from World War II in 1946. He learned to play golf over in Europe, and loved the game, but they wouldn't let him play. And so he built his own golf course.
Don't you find that appalling?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, think about this.
Yeah.
This guy risks his life for our freedom.
Yes.
He comes back and someone says, well, you can't play golf here.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, I just find that appalling.
Well, it was, but he said, okay, I'll build my own golf course.
Take it in his own hands.
Now, have you played there?
Yes, I played there. And in fact, I met his daughter. Interesting story, since you brought it up here. His her name is Renee Powell. She was on the LPGA tour, and she has a doctorate from St. Andrews University, the honorary doctorate. There is a dormitory on the campus that's named after her.
Wow.
And we visited that dormitory while we were there just this past. It was the outside, of course. So we drove onto campus, and I have a picture of me. Each one of us has a picture in front of the sign denoting the dormitory that's named after her.
That is awesome.
But it's called Clearview Golf Course. It's a very, very challenging and hilly golf course, but we had a great time.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I that's a place I do want to play based on that history.
Yeah.
And I mean, he basically built that course by hand.
Yes.
And now she's running it, correct?
She's running. That's correct. She's running it. And when he built the course, it was, he seeded it by himself. So he literally walked the fairway back and forth, putting the seed down for the grass to grow.
Yeah.
But she is running it, and we were there again. It was it was a COVID trip, and there were four in my car, 4 in the car behind me. And when we got there, a bunch of the old Bengals who play golf were there as well. Icky Woods and Eric Thomas and Barney Bussey, a bunch of other guys were there as well. And so we didn't know they were going to be there at that time, but we played, we played with them there.
Okay, there's a guy now that you bring up the Bengals, there's a Bengal who's a member, former Bengal who's a member of my club. Okay. I don't see him around much anymore, but I want to say it's Beauchamp. Remember him?
Al Beauchamp. He was a linebacker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say Al Beauchamp. You should see him. I mean, he's clearly a football player, right?
Yeah, right.
He's got dreadlocks, but they're gray.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I wish.
But it's when you see him, you're like, that guy was a football player.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, hey,
what you say about me, Jeff?
Yeah, you're going to have gray dreadlocks before you know it. Let me assure you.
Oh my
Let
gosh.
me get back to your question, Hayden. Is that all right?
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to hear it.
Continents. Did I answer your question satisfactorily, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm eager to hear about of the 7 continents you played 6. So
I played 6. The one I have not played is Asia. And a lot of people find that amazing because there's so many golf courses there, and it's easy to get to, if you will. And but I have played all the others, including Antarctica.
Well, that's the thing that's more surprising than not having played in Asia. The fact that how in the world did you play in Antarctica? And are you the only person that's ever played there? I mean, or is that other people?
There's some other people that I've seen some pictures of other people playing. There are no golf courses there. Okay, there are no golf courses in Antarctica. And it's cold as all get out, so it's like it can be 100 degrees Fahrenheit below 0 in the wintertime. And, Southern Hemisphere, so their winters are summer. And so the time to go, if you're going to be a tourist, is going to be in our winter time. We went in January of 2020, right before COVID struck, so we were there and decided to go. We actually decided to go a couple of years before that And it was a lot of people travel to Antarctica, so we had to wait in order to get on the ship. We were on National Geographic cruise. I hadn't played South America either at that time, and so we stopped in Argentina in Buenos Aires and played a golf course, Buenos Aires Country Club in Argentina, and then went on down to Ushuaia, which is the southernmost city in the world, and that's where we caught the National Geographic Explorer, the ship that we were on. And so I had this is written up in the African American Golfers Digest, by the way. If you Google golf white continent, you'll see the article. It pops right up.
Black golfer, white continent.
Just a white golf white continent, and we named the tournament the Nubian Open, which is a kind of depiction of people of African descent playing in this Open Championship. We called it whatever we want. We had some golf balls, had a flag, and basically when we were first supposed to play and land on Antarctica, we couldn't play because there was too much ice. So we set up our putting cups on the ship and put it on the top of the ship, took pictures and celebrated and so forth. And then a couple of days later, we actually were able to get off the ship, and that's when we officially played and planted the flag temporarily and brought it back with us. So
Wow.
So how many shots did you actually hit there?
One.
That's good enough.
That's good.
That's all it takes. Now when we're doing on the putting course, we putted. We were out there for about an hour and a half. There were four of us, and including the wife of one of my friends who's traveled to Scotland with me and all these other places. He's a cardiologist. His wife is a nurse practitioner. She was specialized in sickle cell. So she was with us, and then that ER doctor I was talking about, that was the four of us. So it was a fun trip,
So your wife didn't go on this trip?
No, she said it's too cold.
That's fair.
Yeah, she said it's too crazy. It's going to be too cold. I'm not going. You go ahead.
Now, the time that y'all went,
yes.
Imagine if you guys got stuck there.
Yes.
What would you have done? Y'all thought about that, right? Obviously.
Oh yeah, obviously. But
what would you have done?
We probably wouldn't be here now. That's it's when you from Ushuaia to landfall in the Antarctic. The Penguin Island was the first stop where we first stopped. It's just an island in the Shetland chain just north of Antarctica. But that was like a 2-day trip, and going across the Drake Passage. And Drake Passage, the waterways are really, really rough. They say it's the highest waves in the world on a sustained basis. Waves and wind. It was rough. So you need to take your Dramamine and your Zofran with you. If you do that. But so it was. And we didn't. It was actually a day and a half. Actually, it was 3.5 days before we saw another ship.
Wow.
So, and our captain, when we were approaching the Antarctica Peninsula, he said that there was too much cloudiness on the western side, so we were going to go on the eastern side of the peninsula, where he saw some breaks in the weather, and so we were going to go that way. So that's where we went. And he said this is going to be a expedition. This is not a cruise, So they were actually doing some charting as well. So he claimed.
Wow.
But it was quite a trip,
So, I can't imagine the look on the passengers' faces when you get on carrying golf clubs.
Well, I had a putter. It was a collapsible. It was in sections.
Nice.
I just had to put it together. So they were all jealous. Everybody wanted to use it and take pictures. I said, no.
If this thing breaks, I'm screwed.
I said, no. And we had talked with the captain before we got down there, and they had approved us going off the ship and hitting the golf balls and so forth. The golf ball it was a iridescent golf ball. So it would show up in the snow, that sort of thing.
Oh, nice.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get to Australia and avoid playing in Asia.
Well, it's still a long way from Australia to Asia now. You gotta remember
I
that.
agree, but it seems like you've
So-
gone out of your way a lot of times.
Right, no doubt. Well, the real bottom line is my wife wanted to go to Australia, and she doesn't want to go to Asia. So,
Well, is that
that-
the next thing on the list?
Yep, next year. It's not scheduled as of yet, but that's my plan to get it done next year.
Nice.
But she wanted to go to Australia, and she had always wanted to go to Australia, being the teacher, and but that didn't drive her to Asia, but it did drive her to Australia. So we played golf down there. I played 3 times in Australia. So
Were you in were you in Sydney or Melbourne? Those seem to be the.
yep, both of those, as well as Brisbane.
Yeah.
There's a course in Brisbane where the LPGA used to play. I think they still play a tour event there. I forget the name of the course, but I played at that one. In Sydney, I played at New South Wales golf course, and in Melbourne, I played at the Royal Melbourne. Yeah, that was really nice, really nice. So had to get a letter from our head pro beforehand, and they to introduce you and so forth and so on. But you go through all those, you travel that far, you're gonna go through whatever hoops you have to go through in order to get there.
Royal Melbourne, that's got to be near the top of your list in terms of golf courses, right?
Yeah, it was. But in actuality, I like New South Wales better.
Wow.
Just because it's closer to the water, and I like those close to the water courses. That's why I like links courses in Scotland and Ireland. So.
Bandon
Dunes, for that matter.
So you earlier you mentioned your love of Bandon Dunes. Is that your favorite course in the world, or what's your favorite course in the world?
I would say that is my favorite course in the world.
Wow. Now I'm not. Hey, I love it too. I've played there. I think it's fantastic.
It's just that I've done it 3 times, and I like St. Andrews. But I like St. Andrews more for the history. I mean, it's just if you're in Scotland, you got to do it, but it's not a great golf course, so.
Well, I'll tell you what, here's what I tell people.
Uh-huh.
It is, and about the daily ballot. There's, right. But the town of St. Andrews.
Yes.
The Dunvegan.
Yeah.
Rusak's Hotel.
Yeah.
Standing on the first tee, knowing that every great golfer who's ever lived has teed off there. I mean, there's something about the whole, have you ever been in a pub like the Dunvegan during the Open?
Right.
Where everyone's talking about about golf. Or have you been to the Dunvegan on your other trips?
We went the first time we were there. We were at the Dunvegan. But not the second time, because the second time, remember, we had the young ladies with us.
That's right. That's right. Well, okay, but at the Dunvegan, even when it's not the Open, right, that's all people are talking about in there. Right. Golf.
No doubt. And there are pictures on the wall. We found our pictures from 2001. Did you, as you're going up the steps, did you go up the steps and see all the photographs of all the foursomes and so forth?
Yeah.
Okay, so
your picture's still there?
This picture is still there. We took a picture of the picture.
Okay, listen to this. This is a true story. Listen to this. In 1997, I took my dad for his 60th birthday. The following year, all my buddies are like, let's go. Like your buddies, let's go. So I took a group of 8 of us. We stayed at the Dunvegan, right? And they've got hotel rooms upstairs.
Right.
I took a picture of us in front of the new clubhouse. Okay. Or I think they call it the Links Clubhouse, but it's where the new course in the Jubilee tee off from.
Right.
I took a picture of us in a panoramic view.
Okay.
I framed it and I signed it. I had everyone sign their name, and I put to the best inn in Scotland. Okay. For more than 20 years, it was eye level right when you walk in.
Really?
So I went there this year and it's gone.
Did you inquire as to why?
Yes.
And the answer was?
Said we took down the larger photographs and put up smaller ones, but if you'd like your photograph back, we have it in a box upstairs.
Really?
I'm like, no, you can have it, but
Wow.
that thing, you know how many pictures I got of my friends with a selfie going, look, here I am in front of your picture. And it was my dad, me, my brother, and 5 of our friends. It was
Wow.
amazing.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
So what's left on your bucket list other than Asia? Is there anything left?
Yes, actually. I want to.
Is there anything left? You've done everything besides Augusta, maybe.
Right. I would. Yeah. That's impossible though. So that's the sort of thing where I told all of my friends. I mean, you meet all of these people and they say, "Well, I know somebody who belongs to Augusta," and I said, "All I need is time to get there. I will stop whatever I'm doing. It could be even when I was working. I said, if I have surgery the next day, that'll be the only time I would cancel the surgeries and go play golf. So,
Got some pictures here.
yeah, okay. Well, I haven't done that, so I'm not.
I didn't play.
Okay.
No. I won a golf tournament outing 4-man scramble. This was the first place prize, was just a picture of it.
Oh,
It's as close as I've gotten. Actually, I went, so
I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I've been to all 4 majors, but my other bucket list is basically I want to attend a sporting event, a major sporting event of every sport.
okay.
So, so that's, I haven't done soccer or hockey, or I haven't done the Kentucky Derby even, or Indianapolis 500,
Tennis?
I've done tennis up at, the Western and Southern, but I would like to go to the US Open. One of my buddies who, say again?
Still got a chance.
Oh no, I know. One of my buddies who went to the 4th guy, the guy who was taking all the pictures of us resuscitating the caddy.
Yeah.
He's a retired chemist from USDA, but he's been to 23 straight US Open tennis tournaments.
Wow.
Well, I'm saying like you can fly out tomorrow, make it to New York.
No, I can't do that, man. There's a young lady in the other room who still controls.
Oh yeah, right. You got to make it to a CFL game too.
Yeah,
that's different than NFL.
Is that right? Yeah.
Different rules.
Okay.
Yeah, the Grey Cup would be fun to go to.
Yeah, that would be. Well, those are sort of things that I still want to do and play in Asia. So.
Yeah. Awesome.
You're muted,
Jeff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a train going by. I put.
Oh, okay.
One of the things you mentioned was that one of the things you love about links golf is being so close to the water.
Yes.
What else attracts you to links golf? Because clearly you love links golf.
Yes, I do. It's different than the courses that we play on. You have to strategize differently and keep the ball out of the air, because it's hard to get the ball off the ground.
Stop looking at me, Jeff.
I'm looking at him while you're talking. I'm like,
looking at me. I learned slowly.
Where were you when he needed you?
Right.
Clyde?
I needed you.
Oh yeah. Or you use a putter 40 yards short of the green.
I learned slowly on the tee box. I learned slowly on my chip shots.
Right. Yeah, you gotta keep them low, and I just like, it's a different challenge. But when we were at our last day, actually that was my worst round, playing at the old course on the last day, and I was just the ball was coming up short. Even when I was running along the ground, I would take a 6-iron and run the ball along the ground 70 yards, and it'd come up short and hit one of those swells and go down in the valley, and I come out. Couldn't get the speed of the greens right. I was 3-putting. I think I had 4 3-putts that day, but the greens are huge, as you know. So I shot a 94, which was horrible. I was sick at that. We get to I had a penalty stroke on the road hole, and and then I lost my ball, and so I couldn't find it
on the right or the left.
On the left. And so we couldn't find it, and so I took the penalty stroke and I hit a 4 hybrid down there to about, in fact, it was 90 yards from the green. And the caddy said, okay, well, that road hole green. He said, just bump it up there and just get on the green. I said, no. I wasn't in the fairway. I was just in the first cut. I said, give me my sand wedge. I flew that ball up there. I flew it up there to about 12 feet. The same putt that Rory had. I made mine for the bogey. But that was the only time I shunned the advice of the caddy, and I said, I'm gonna fly this ball up there because I know I can hit this sand wedge. I can hit it 85 yards. It's gonna release another 7 or 8. So, and it was a perfect shot and made the putt. So that was the beauty of it. So,
But isn't that one of your favorite golf holes? I mean,
oh yeah,
it's one of the best golf holes I've ever played. I've never birdied it. I've played it a dozen times. I've parred a couple times, but getting a par there feels like a birdie.
yeah. Well, my bogey felt pretty good. Trust me.
No, I don't disagree.
You're right. Yeah, if you par that hole, it's a big deal. So, but it was fun. So, and then you have to deal with all the wind. And unfortunately, for the whole week we were over there, we didn't get much rain.
Yeah.
But on links golf, you had to deal with the wind and the fact that you just can't launch that ball like we do here, and it's going to run. It's not going to stick.
Yeah, I think before I take Hayden back again, I'm gonna make sure he calls you in advance to get some
You get my
tips
advice.
and hints on how to play. Or maybe I don't do that and I just continue to take his money. I think
Exactly.
that might be
Exactly. Yeah.
a better idea.
Right. He's probably learned by now, So.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what advice do you have for people, not just about golf, but about the experience when you travel to Scotland or Ireland or England, or about the experiences over there, what they can expect?
My advice is to first of all, I wouldn't spend all my time on the golf course. Don't play 36 holes. And play, even if you're young and fit like Hayden, play 18 holes a day, and then enjoy the culture, enjoy the food, and the food is certainly different from the United States, and be a little bit adventurous and try some things that you haven't tried before, and enjoy the scenery. I mean, there's just so much, even off the golf course, the sightseeing and being a tourist is okay, and take advantage of all those experiences and opportunities that you have.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. That's why we usually traveling overseas. In fact, I've never played 36 holes. We always play. We'll play 18 holes and find something else to do. So
8 days of 18 holes was good enough for me.
Yeah,
Let me tell you.
right.
I was ready.
Yeah, I was really tired. So I've gone from, at least in the United States, we used to play 36 holes a day. I'd go to Bandon Dunes, we'll play 36 holes, and I'm not doing that anymore. And
Yeah.
now I'm not even play 8 days in a row. I'm going to play 4 and take a day off and then play
Yeah.
again. So that's as I get older. I know the body can't stand that. I can't tolerate that. But enjoy the culture and enjoy the scenery and the trip. So, and golf is a wonderful thing, but it's not everything. So.
Right. Well, I think as we conclude here, but I hope people really paid attention to what you were saying. I think that the example that you've led in your life, about the entire way that you've led your life, is just remarkable, and I think it's an excellent example for everyone about experiencing everything.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you're willing to try things that you have no interest in, or seemingly have no interest in, or go to places that are far-flung places, and embracing life the way that you have. It's remarkable. And I think that it's a great lesson for everyone. The advice you have for golf is great, but more importantly, the life lessons I think you've given us are worth sharing with everyone. So
Sure.
I do appreciate that. And it's because you take all those things over to your work, as well, and enjoying people and treating people right, and being honest, makes all the difference in the world. And we're blessed to do what we do, and just treat it as such.
Yeah.
And understand that tomorrow's not promised. You can't put everything off until tomorrow, because tomorrow may not ever come. So.
well,
Can't
I
always
want
have
you
a
to know
doctor.
that oh, go ahead, Hayden. I'm sorry.
Can't always have a doctor by your side if you're caddying. You
That's
never know.
right. You never know.
Exactly. That's true. No doubt.
But if you ever get down to Georgia, you've got you're welcome to play with us anytime, anywhere. And if you can get the two of us onto Augusta, We'll put you up at the Motel 6 right off of Washington Road.
All right.
We'll get you at East Lake if you get us on Augusta. It's not
Okay.
the same, but
Well, I
we
love
got
to play
something.
East Lake. I haven't played East Lake. We'll have to do that. I'll take you up on that.
All right.
Hey,
He was at the
It's
that-
been a real pleasure.
Well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you
I
for coming on.
appreciate you asking me, and you all be well. It's been a great experience for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you guys again for joining. I hope you guys enjoyed Clyde. We certainly did. Clyde has got so many great memories and experiences and stories. Just hearing about playing golf in Antarctica, it's amazing. I don't know how many people have actually done that before. His experiences with, the younger generation and the stuff he's done with his life is really inspirational. So I hope you enjoyed, and please join us next week. Thank you.